Laura Ingalls Wilder and her daughter, Rose Wilder Lane, embarked on careers in journalism at about the same time. No letters or diaries remain to explain this coincidence. Did the two women ever discuss their shared interests before they launched their careers? Had Wilder nurtured the dream of becoming a writer while Lane was still living at home before heading off to Kansas City and beginning her life there as a bachelor girl? We probably will never know. But according to Lane's biographer, William Holtz, Lane was drawn to her husband, Gillette Lane, precisely because of his self-proclaimed success as a newspaperman. Holtz quotes from one of Lane's unpublished manuscripts, where Lane explained her attraction to her husband. When Gillette came along, I wanted him because 1, I wanted sex, and 2, I took him at his own stated value as representing success and money and the high cultural level of newspaper work. By 1910, a year after her marriage to Gillette, Lane was working for 2 competing Kansas City newspapers, the Post and the Journal. As Holtz points out, Lane's sprightly accounts of scandals, crimes, accidents, food shows, and baby pageants are the first appearance of her public voice. Meanwhile, back at Rocky Ridge Farm, Wilder wrote a poultry column for the St. Louis Star-Farmer, and in February 1911 contributed her first article to the Missouri Ruralist, the largest agricultural publication in the state, headquartered in Kansas City. She initially published under Almanzo's name as A.J. Wilder. This gave Wilder more credibility, especially early in her career, when she wrote on such masculine topics as Rocky Ridge Farm and My Apple Orchard. In 1911, male readers expected male reporters to cover stories dealing with innovative farm techniques and the business of farming. And it wasn't unusual in the 19th and 20th centuries for women to adopt masculine pseudonyms. The Bronte sisters, for example, originally published under the name Ellis, Action, and Courier Bell. Think about George Eliot and George Sand. Even J.K. Rowling in the late 20th century chose to write the Harry Potter series using an androgynous pen name because her agent worried that boys wouldn't read fantasy written by a woman. And just last year, Rowling chose a male pseudonym, Robert Galbraith, under which to publish her first adult mystery. So the practice continues today. But please note that even early in her career, Wilder made the front page. Wilder's byline appeared sporadically in the Ruralist from 1911 through 1915, perhaps because Wilder was learning her craft, perhaps because she was preoccupied with finishing the farmhouse at Rocky Ridge, or perhaps because she kept herself busy with social activities. She was a member of several women's organizations at the time. As she later explained to the editor of the Ruralist, I have always been a busy person, doing my own housework, helping the man of the place around the farm. But from 1915 onward, Mrs. A.J. Wilder's byline began to appear more often, maybe because a new editor took over the paper, John F. Case. He felt it was important to woo more women readers to the Ruralist, and in Wilder, he found just the right writer. They also shared something in common. Both had spent part of their childhoods in Dakota Territory. Under Case's direction, the Ruralist developed a more friendly, interesting, and personable style, a style that was fast-moving and easy to read and easily understood by the farm audience. Its circulation grew, and so did Wilder's reputation as a farm journalist for the paper. By 1918, Wilder was such a popular columnist that the Ruralist published a short feature article about her. She went on to develop regular columns for the Ruralist, and from 1915 until 1924, Mrs. A.J. Wilder's byline appeared in almost every issue of the paper. During her 13-year association with the Ruralist, Wilder learned how to write compelling beginnings and endings, fully developed scenes, memorable characters, and credible dialogue. As a columnist, writers' work in The Ruralist moved toward the direction of what we now consider the genre creative nonfiction, which capitalizes on all the basic principles of writing fiction. These skills served her well years later when she began work on the Little House series. And one other quick point about Wilder's work at The Ruralist. She also used her columns to explore her pioneer childhood and adolescence. In The Ruralist, she wrote about the long winter, pioneer Christmas memories, teaching school, and the Ingalls family itself. Like her mother, Lane's first big professional break came as a newspaper columnist. She and Gillette had moved back to San Francisco, and in 1914, one of Lane's old friends hired her as an editorial assistant on the women's page for the San Francisco Bulletin. One of Lane's early columns about everyday life for the modern San Francisco woman in 1915 reads, "How on earth can men act as they do and still call themselves the logical sex? Why, if they had the smallest bit of logic in their entire makeup, 3 minutes of reflection would show them how absolutely illogical they are." Lane quickly came to the attention of the newspaper's editor, Fremont Older, an old-school newspaper man described by Lane's biographer as a demanding taskmaster with a soft heart. Yet the newspaper business was tough. Editing was aggressive and heavy-handed. As I point out in Laura Ingalls Wilder, A Writer's Life, editors often rewrote leads and entire paragraphs, shifted them around, added details, eliminated others, and often reporters weren't aware of these changes until they saw their stories in print. This kind of editing is still standard in the news business today, and it's the kind of editing Lane learned from Older. In 1915, despite her new career and her many responsibilities at the Bulletin, Lane invited her mother to visit San Francisco that year. The attraction in 1915 was the Panama Pacific International Exposition. But the real purpose of the visit was that Lane, new as she was to writing a regular newspaper column, had decided to teach her mother how to write for the big magazine and newspaper markets. I describe this fully in my biography on Wilder, but I do want to make a couple of very quick points about it here. Rose was a novice journalist herself. In fact, Wilder in 1915 had more experience as a columnist than her daughter. Yet that didn't stop Lane from telling her mother how to write. And perhaps, just as importantly, that didn't stop Wilder from listening to her daughter and taking her daughter's advice. She wrote home to Almanzo, who had stayed behind at Rocky Ridge Farm. "Rose and I are blocking out a story of the Ozarks for me to finish when I get home. If I can only make it sell, it ought to help a lot. And besides, I am learning so that I can write others for the magazines. If only I can get started at that, it will sell for a good deal more than farm stuff."